At this point, it's not motivation you've lost, it's trust in yourself. Too many broken promises, too many this time is different moments. That hurts more than failure. But discipline was never supposed to feel like a daily war. There's a way to make consistency feel natural, and that's how you finally master discipline for good. My friend, your brain is working against you, and that's what it looks like when things are actually functioning properly. For most of human history, survival was uncertain, the food was scarce, and energy was precious. But the brain adapted to conserve it. It seeks quick rewards and avoids unnecessary effort. That was the smart play. The problem is that the same circuitry is still running in you now. Try to wake up early to train before work, and your brain reads it as a threat to your comfort and reserves. Open your laptop to do something meaningful, and it quietly steers you toward Instagram. Pleasure is instant there, no effort required. When you've been working on something for months without seeing much reward or progress yet, it's normal for your brain to start losing interest. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because the brain naturally leans toward what feels easiest right now. It doesn't instantly care about rewards that might take months or years to show up. In neuroscience, this is called cognitive ease, the brain's tendency to prefer what feels familiar, comfortable, and low effort. That's why your mind would often rather scroll, rest, or avoid difficult work than put energy into something with a delayed payoff. Most of your decisions are already made before you're even aware of them. You don't decide to scroll instead of work. The impulse fires, and then you're 20 minutes in, and only then do you notice. So when you try to force discipline through sheer willpower, motivational self-talk, gritting your teeth, you're essentially trying to override millions of years of evolutionary wiring with a few encouraging thoughts. It works for a day, maybe a week, but fatigue comes, and when it does, you go back to autopilot. Autopilot always picks the easiest road. James Clear says motivation is overrated, the environment matters more. If you keep needing willpower to do the things you know you should do, what usually decides your actions isn't motivation, it's how easy the action feels at the moment. When the easy option is also the right one, consistency stops being something you fight for and starts being a side effect of how things are set up. For example, it's easier to work out when your clothes and gear are already prepared, or it's easier to write when the document is already open in front of you. Once the easier option becomes the right option, consistency stops feeling like a daily fight and starts happening more naturally. But the fix is simpler than you think. You just need to understand why your current environment is working against you every single day without you even noticing. Think about the last time you told yourself that you were really going to change something. Maybe you were finally going to go to the gym, eat healthier, or start your project after work instead of just lying on the couch. You meant it. You had reasons. But what did your environment look like? Gym clothes buried in a drawer, running shoes already in the car, phone in hand before the day has started, a couch close enough to fall into without thinking. My friend, it isn't a choice between discipline and distraction. The easier something is to reach, the more likely you are to do it. And the system always leans toward what's easiest to access. Behavioral researchers call this choice architecture. The idea is that behavior is shaped more by what's close and visible than by what we consciously want. Sounds almost too obvious to take seriously, but the data keeps backing it up. James Clear talks about a study where researchers moved water bottles to the front of a cafeteria and placed them at eye level instead of keeping them in the back, where people barely noticed them. There were no rules, no rewards, and no big awareness campaign. They simply changed the environment. But because the water became easier to see and grab, more people started choosing it, while fewer people bought soda. Same principle, your life. Reading increases when the book is already within reach, not stored out of sight. Phone use drops when access requires friction instead of a single tap. Work starts more often when the task is already open, not left behind another layer of setup and decision-making. And that's the deeper lesson most people miss. Change rarely comes from becoming a different person, but from reducing the moments where you have to choose the better option under pressure. When your environment quietly supports your intentions, you stop burning willpower before meaningful work even begins. If you've experimented with anything like this, even something small, like leaving your phone in another room or setting things out the night before, I'd actually genuinely love to know what worked for you. Everyone finds slightly different friction points, and those small observations matter. Drop it in the comments. It might help someone reading through them figure out their own version. There are two patterns that drive most behavior. The mind conserves effort, and the environment quietly shapes actions before willpower even enters the picture. That still leaves a practical gap. Clean up your environment, reduce friction, make the right choices easier, and you might still stall. Starting something new takes energy, even when everything is set up right. That first step is usually the hardest part. My friend, habit stacking helps with that. Your brain already runs hundreds of automatic loops every day. Wake up, make coffee, sit on the couch, reach for the phone, brush teeth before bed. These take almost no mental energy because they're already wired in deeply enough that you do them without deciding to. The idea is to attach a new behavior to one of those existing loops instead of trying to build something from scratch. You're not creating a new habit so much as borrowing the momentum of an old one. New habits stick better when they're attached to something you already do. After I make my morning coffee, I'll spend 10 minutes on the project. After I sit down at my desk, I'll write 3 sentences before opening anything else. After I lock up for the day, I'll put on something worth listening to for the drive home. It works because it removes the biggest energy cost, which is starting. Once you're moving, staying in motion is much easier than getting there. Habit stacking creates that initial push, and that push, more than motivation or willpower, is what makes behavior actually stick. There are few things that matter when you try this. Keep the new habit small, 2 minutes or less to start. Make it specific. When the instruction is too vague, like be creative, your brain doesn't really know what to do with it. But when the task becomes something simple and concrete, like write 1 paragraph, your brain has a clear starting point, and it becomes much easier to begin. And lastly, do it immediately after the existing habit, not 5 minutes later after you've checked your phone. Get those conditions right, and the brain stops deliberating. It just goes. No motivation required, no waiting to feel ready. The system runs, and the action happens before doubt shows up. Small actions matter less for what they produce, and more for what they train you to stop second-guessing. Each repetition chips away at hesitation until starting barely registers, and that's when resistance mostly disappears. Quick pause here. If you've been getting value from videos like this and you want to support what we're building on this channel, I opened up memberships. Members get perks like priority replies to their questions and the ability to suggest topics for upcoming videos. It's a small thing, but it genuinely makes a difference. If it feels right, hit that join button below. I used to carry real shame around procrastination. I take it as evidence of something that I'm undisciplined, unmotivated, not cut out for what they're trying to build. But the reframe is simple. Procrastination isn't a personality flaw, it's a symptom. A signal that your environment, your habits, or your system is poorly designed. My friend, when you avoid a task, it's almost never because you don't care about it. It's because the way that task exists in your life right now makes it feel overwhelming, unattractive, or unrewarding. Your brain runs on quick feedback and low effort, and it can't justify the energy cost. Think about it. Studying for a certification or working on a business plan requires sustained focus, and the payoff is abstract, somewhere in the future. Opening YouTube gives you immediate stimulation, varied content, and a dopamine hit every few seconds. For the brain, it's not a fair fight. It will choose what easily gives instant pleasure over something difficult that offers a delayed reward. But there are 4 things that make any behavior easy to maintain. When procrastination keeps winning, it almost always means one of them is broken. Make it obvious. If the thing you're supposed to do isn't visible, it won't happen. Out of sight genuinely means out of mind for the brain. So if your study materials are inside your bag, your journal is tucked in a drawer, or your gym clothes are buried in the closet, there's a small bit of friction there. It doesn't feel like much, but it's enough to make not doing it the easier choice. What stays in view becomes what stays in your attention, and what stays in your attention becomes what you're most likely to act on. People usually stick with what fits easily into their environment. Once something becomes inconvenient, consistency drops fast. Make it attractive. The habit needs to carry some kind of anticipation. This doesn't mean you have to love it, but you can pair it with something you do enjoy, a specific playlist you only play while working, or good coffee you make before you sit down, even a reward you've committed to after you finish. Linking effort to something pleasant lowers the brain's resistance. Over time, the brain stops bracing for the task and starts associating it with something predictable and rewarding. That's often enough to turn resistance into willingness without forcing anything. Make it easy. This is possibly the most underrated of the four. The more steps between you and starting, the lower the probability you actually start. Strip the habit down to its most minimal form. You don't need to commit to an hour, commit to 5 minutes, or commit to opening the document. The brain's biggest barrier is initiation, but once you're moving, stopping actually takes more effort. My friend, people can handle difficult work. What slows them down is getting into it. Once that's reduced enough, action stops feeling like a decision and starts feeling like a continuation. That's usually when momentum takes over on its own. Make it satisfying. Behavior needs a feedback loop. Without some sense of completion or reward, the brain doesn't attach to the habit. Track your progress somewhere visible. Mark the days off. Acknowledge when you did the thing. These small moments of recognition signal to your brain, this was worth doing, do it again. What gets recognized tends to get repeated, and those visible reminders of follow-through become proof that something is actually happening, even when results still feel far off. A concrete example for that is to say you want to start working on a project every evening after your job. This is what most people's setup looks like. They plan to focus for an hour, but the environment is all over the place. Materials are scattered. There's no clear first step. The TV is running in the background, and there's not even a clear sense of when they're done. With that kind of setup, starting feels heavy, and focus doesn't really stick. So instead of working, they drift to their phone. Afterward comes the guilt, then the promise to do better tomorrow, and before long, the same cycle repeats. Now apply the 4 laws. The materials are already out and open on the desk, obvious. You make a cup of your favorite tea before you start, attractive. You commit to just 20 minutes with one specific task, easy. You put a small check mark on a notepad when you're done, satisfying. What gets recognized tends to get repeated, and those visible reminders of follow-through become proof that something is actually happening, even when results still feel far off. The systems work, the environment design works, habit stacking works, but none of it fully explains why some people stay consistent for years, while others keep cycling back to square one. That answer sits one layer deeper. There's a popular idea in self-improvement content: fall in love with the process, love the grind. If you're not passionate about your routine, you'll never be consistent. It's everywhere. It's also mostly wrong, my friend. The most consistent people don't wake up fired up about their to-do list. They don't even love every workout. They're not enthusiastic about the hard, repetitive, unglamorous parts of building something. They made the important stuff easier to continue without needing constant motivation. Most attempts at a morning workout meet immediate resistance at wake-up, where comfort and inertia override intention before any deliberate decision fully forms. It's cold. They didn't sleep great. They'll go in the evening. And that's it. The habit dies again. Now picture a different setup. Night before, clothes laid out next to the bed, alarm set across the room so they have to physically get up to turn it off, playlist queued to start the moment it stops, a friend waiting at the track at 7 a.m. The workout hasn't gotten more enjoyable. It's still hard, but the decision was already made the night before when they were thinking clearly. By the time morning resistance kicks in, the structure is already doing the work. Getting up is easier than not. Disciplined people don't rely on desire. They arrange things so the right behavior is just the default, so doing the thing costs less than avoiding it. Goals set direction, but systems determine what actually happens, not what you intend, what you've made automatic. If you're in your mid-20s trying to build something, you don't have decades of momentum yet. You have time. The systems you put in place now will compound, and that cuts both ways. Good defaults get easier to maintain, bad ones get harder to break. What you normalize now is what you won't question later, even when life gets harder. A better question is whether your routine still works on days you don't feel motivated. Long-term thinking doesn't start with intensity, it starts with what you quietly repeat until it becomes normal. What you normalize now is what you won't question later, even when life gets harder. Small compromises feel harmless in the moment, and they are, until they've defined what your average day looks like by default. The real advantage isn't talent or timing. It's how early you start building systems that protect your future self from your present excuses. Once your environment and habits are aligned, the gap between who you want to be and how you behave closes on its own, not through effort, but through design. All of it depends on one foundation that gets ignored most often because it requires consistency before results are visible. My friend, you have to own your outcomes. The idea of extreme ownership is simple in theory, even if it's harder in practice. When something in your life isn't going the way you want, the first place to look is yourself. Not the circumstances or your schedule, not even the people around you. It's about shifting your focus toward what you can actually control and change in your own actions, instead of putting all the blame on external factors. That probably sounds harsh, but what it actually gives you is when you blame external things, you hand over your ability to change anything. If the problem is the circumstances have to change first, and circumstances are mostly out of your control. But when you say this is a result of my patterns, my choices, my habits, there's suddenly something to work with. There's an action available. When something goes wrong, you miss the deadline, the project didn't land, the goal didn't happen, saying, "That's on me," stings. The ego pushes back hard. It wants to explain, justify, point at everything external. But when the excuses go away and you actually look at what happened, it hurts, and it clarifies at the same time. If it's your fault, it's yours to fix. Worth saying plainly, if you don't take care of your health, you'll pay for it physically, eventually. The same applies elsewhere. If you don't save money, stay consistent with your work, or manage your time well, you won't feel the impact immediately. The other side of that is why discipline is worth building. The person who actually develops these habits doesn't just get more done. They have more options, more control over their time, more financial room to breathe, more energy. They can afford to be selective in ways that undisciplined people can't. Discipline is what creates more room to do what you actually want later. That sounds backwards, but talk to anyone who's lived it long enough, and they'll tell you the same thing. Most of the restrictions people feel later in life weren't sudden. They were accumulated, small decisions that quietly narrowed what was available. What you consistently neglect today tends to become what limits your choices tomorrow. The earlier you see that freedom is built through structure, the less you confuse ease in the moment with safety in the long run. Discipline isn't about control for its own sake. It's about keeping your options open for when they actually matter. The real reward isn't productivity, it's having room to decide how you want to live, rather than reacting to what you have no choice but to do. There's one layer underneath all of this that most productivity advice never really touches. When it's off, even the best systems eventually fall apart. When it's right, consistency stops feeling like something you're forcing. It just becomes how you operate. My friend, no system holds indefinitely if the person running it doesn't see themselves as someone who does these things. James Clear says that long-term change doesn't really start with goals alone, but with identity, who you believe you are. Your identity, or the way you see yourself, quietly shapes your actions. If you see yourself as someone who exercises, working out starts to feel more natural. If you see yourself as someone who writes, you tend to write more often without overthinking it. And over time, those repeated actions start to reinforce that identity. Behavior shapes identity, and identity then shapes behavior. It's in that cycle that lasting change is built. Or if you think of yourself as someone who is trying to become disciplined, working toward consistency, hoping to eventually be the kind of person who follows through, you'll always feel the effort. You're pushing towards something from the outside. When you start to see yourself as someone who just does what needs to be done, that changes. The behavior stops feeling like discipline. It starts feeling like what you do. My friend, every time you show up and do something you were about to skip, it adds up. A workout, focused work, getting out of bed anyway. It doesn't feel significant in the moment, but it builds a pattern. And over time, that pattern changes how you see yourself. You're becoming someone different. When you build your environment so the right choices are the default, You're not just making things easier, you're collecting evidence about who you are. Every repetition is your brain filing away the same note. This is what people like me do. The goal isn't to hit something and coast, it's to become someone for whom this is just normal, where showing up isn't an act of discipline, so much as a reflection of how you see yourself. That's a harder target to aim at than a number on a scale or a dollar amount in an account, but it's also the only one that doesn't expire. Identity shifts matter more than isolated wins because behavior stabilizes around what you repeatedly tolerate from yourself. You don't change in one moment, you change in the accumulation of moments where you held a standard you'd chosen. Over time, effort stops being about forcing action and starts being about confirming a direction you've already committed to. What used to need effort becomes routine, and the days you don't do it start to feel out of place. The most durable change is when the question is no longer, can I do this? But why wouldn't I? At that point, discipline isn't something you reach for, it's just how you operate. You've been sold a story. That discipline is something certain people are just born with, that the ones who wake up early, follow through, and never quit are wired for it in some way you're not. That story is why you've restarted the same goal 4 times this year and still feel behind. But every time you told yourself, this is the week, and meant it, that wasn't a weakness. That was someone with a real drive using the wrong approach. The drive was never the problem. The problem is that nobody told you discipline isn't a personality trait. It's a system, and you've been trying to run one that was never designed for how your brain actually works. Most high performers aren't grinding on willpower. They've built environments and habits that make the right behaviors the default. The ones who look effortlessly consistent aren't feeling more motivated than you. They've stopped relying on motivation altogether. That distinction matters. If discipline is a trait, you either have it or you don't, and there's nothing to do but feel bad about it. But if you view discipline as a system, it is no longer fixed. You can build it, adjust it, and improve it over time. This means that instead of thinking, this is just how I am, you start asking, how can I set myself up to make consistency easier? And that's where your entire approach to the problem changes. My friend, everything covered here, none of it was about turning you into a different person. It was about giving you the tools that consistent people are already using, whether they realize it or not. Nothing was broken. The system around it just didn't make the action easy to follow through on. Once you understand that, failure stops feeling personal and starts becoming useful. Progress becomes less about judging yourself and more about refining what shapes your behavior day to day. The people who stay consistent aren't necessarily stronger, they've just made it easier to return to consistency after they fall off. And that matters, because it means change isn't reserved for a certain type of person. It's available to anyone willing to build the right structure. If you keep restarting the same goal over and over, this next mindset shift might finally explain why and change what happens from here forward. Every reset you've had, every Monday that felt like a fresh start, every journal entry that didn't survive the week wasn't failure, it was data. It was telling you exactly what wasn't working and why. The problem was never that you started over. The issue was repeating the same approach and hoping the outcome would change. Same environment, same habits, same reliance on motivation that was never going to show up consistently enough to carry you. Now, there's a different setup in place. Not based on feeling good or being perfectly organized, but something that fits how you actually operate instead of working against it. And that changes what starting over even means. It's not a sign you're behind. It's not evidence that you can't do this. It's just the next repetition in a process that compounds quietly until one day, a person looking back at the old patterns genuinely doesn't recognize them anymore. The people who eventually get this right aren't the ones who never fell off. They're the ones who stopped treating every reset as proof they were broken and started treating it as information they could actually use. Once mistakes stop feeling personal, they're easier to see clearly and fix. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what broke down? Once you stop defending the mistake, you can actually learn something from it. Nobody's consistency looks impressive from the inside. From the outside, you see the results, the physique, the business, the skill level, the calm. Inside, it feels like repetition, small decisions, and a lot of ordinary days. It's just someone who didn't quit on a Tuesday when they really wanted to. Someone who did the thing at 70% energy because the system made not doing it slightly harder than doing it. No dramatic moment, no superhuman resolve, just a setup that made the right call the easier one, repeated enough times that it stopped feeling like discipline and started feeling like personality. That's what tends to stay behind the scenes, because it doesn't look like anything worth sharing. It's quiet, it's ordinary, it's someone opening the document before they feel ready, someone putting on the shoes before the motivation arrives, someone crossing off the day not because they crushed it, but because they showed up. That's what you're actually building toward, not a highlight reel, a baseline, a new normal where the version of you that follows through isn't the exception. It's just who you are now. The most meaningful change looks repetitive and unimpressive while it's happening. The real transformation is in the private moments. Nothing dramatic, just another decision to continue. Over time, consistency stops feeling like a goal and becomes your baseline. My friend, the hardest thing to accept is that you already know enough to start. You've known for a while. More information was never what was missing. What was missing was a system that made acting on what you know easier than ignoring it. That's what this was about. But knowing this and doing nothing with it puts you exactly where you started. And that's a choice too, just not one most people admit they're making. The gap between who you are and who you're capable of being doesn't close through motivation. It closes through small, deliberate decisions made consistently enough that they stop feeling like decisions at all. That's not inspiration. That's just how change actually works. You don't need a perfect week to begin. You don't need the right circumstances or the right mood. You need one environment change, one stacked habit, one moment where you do the thing instead of planning to do the thing. Discipline isn't something you find. It's something you build, one unremarkable decision at a time. The most dangerous version of you isn't the one who failed. It's the one who finally stopped waiting for the right moment and just started. That moment is right now. If you found this video helpful, this next video right here will take you even further. Your choice, your life. Start now.